But it wasn't just the 80s. The awesome design elements continued into the 90s. And what I'd like to do today is take you all through just a brief visual history of Cherry Coke. Hey everyone, my name is Perry, and welcome back to the Cassette Phase. So, really fun video today, at least I think so. Because as you may or may not know, I personally think that retro and vintage soda is just so nostalgic. You know, there's something about the old designs of those cans and the packaging and those great old commercials and jingles that just takes me back. You know, back to summer days on my BMX bike, sitting down on the curb of my neighborhood street to enjoy an ice-cold mellow yellow. But before we get started, I wore the Cubs hat today in honor of Ryne Sandberg, who passed away earlier this week. And Ryne Sandberg, or Rhino, as Harry Carey would call him, was one of my all-time favorite players. You know, he was right up there with Ozzie Smith and Rickey Henderson. So, R.I.P. to one of the all-time greats. But we're not talking about baseball today. We're not even talking about mellow yellow today. No, today we're going to revisit an old favorite, Cherry Coke. Now, why are we talking about Cherry Coke today? Well, somehow this flew under the radar for me, which is surprising, but my wife pointed out that Coca-Cola was re-releasing Diet Cherry Coke in that retro 1986 packaging. So of course, what did we do? Well, we tracked some down. Now, I just think that Cherry Coke, and to a lesser extent Diet Cherry Coke, had one of the most iconic 80s style can designs. But it wasn't just the 80s. The awesome design elements continued into the 90s. And what I'd like to do today is take you all through just a brief visual history of Cherry Coke. We'll take a look at the various can designs throughout the decades and revisit some of those classic commercials and jingles. Then we'll go over to the Ottoman and do an up-close review of those new re-released 1986 Diet Cherry Coke cans. And I suppose maybe do a taste test, even though I'm not the biggest fan of diet soda. And of course, we'll mix in our cassette of the day in between. So it's going to be another nostalgic day here in the den, full of fun, fuzzy, and fizzy memories. Sound like fun to you? Come hang out. Okay everyone, welcome back to the Ottoman, and welcome to another great day here in the den. Over on the TV today we've got some She-Ra going. Fun old cartoon there, great background noise. And before we take our deep dive into the history of Cherry Coke, let's do our cassette of the day. And we'll keep it quick today to keep the video moving, but I went with an audio cassette today. I went over to my audio cassette collection on the wall and just looked for something iconic, something that we probably all listened to, you know, an album that was inescapable back in the mid-'80s, on the radio, on MTV, in Pizza Hut, in your parents' cars, you know, anywhere and everywhere where they were playing music, you were hearing songs from the 1986 album Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi. Now, I've always kind of considered Bon Jovi a little bit more of like a singles type of band, I guess. I don't know. You know, individual songs stick out a little bit more to me than full albums do, which was the case for a lot of these, you know, glam rock, hair metal bands from back in the 80s. But this one's pretty loaded. You know, it starts off strong with Let It Rock, and then it goes immediately into You Give Love a Bad Name. And then, as if that's not a big enough hit, and if that's not a big enough classic, iconic 80s anthem, you roll right into Living on a Prayer. Are you kidding me? What a 1-2 punch that is. And then you got a little bit of a drop off with that next song there, which is just okay. But then you close out side one with Wanted Dead or Alive. I don't know of a better, like, 3-song lineup when we're talking about glam rock, pop metal, 80s iconic sounds from our childhoods than You Give Love a Bad Name, Living on a Prayer, and Wanted Dead or Alive. And then you got some other good songs on side 2. I like that closer, Wild in the Streets. That's a fun song. But yeah, not nearly as strong as side 1 in my opinion. But yeah, just a great summertime album to put on in the background. If you're out in the garage working, you know, if you're doing some yard work, maybe you're out on the back patio cooking out, stuff like this just sounds really good in those settings, in my opinion. Let's see if I can get it open with one hand. Pretty plain looking cassette there. But great for the boombox. And I'm not going to take the insert out and unfold it, but we all remember the days of taking the paperwork out and looking through the lyrics and seeing if there's any pictures of the band or whatever. Just good, memorable times with audio cassettes, and I feel like this is about as iconic as it gets for that particular time period. So I wanted to talk about it today. We'll probably go back to VHS tapes on the next cassette of the day, but I figured Bon Jovi's album, Slippery When Wet, would be a good entry for today.
Want to try a cherry Coke?
Outrageous.
I'm gonna take this idea into the 80s.
Cherry Coke, it's the one and only. Cherry Coca-Cola. Outrageously smooth, outrageously light.
And now to the year 2000.
Cherry makes it wild, Coca-Cola makes it right. Outrageous. New Cherry Coke. Just out and outrageous.
Cherry Coca-Cola.
Check it out and find out. Taste is what it's all about. Outrageously smooth, outrageously light. Cherry makes it wild, Coca-Cola makes it right. New Cherry Coke.
Outrageous.
New Cherry Coke.
Outrageous.
Cherry, cherry, cherry Coca-Cola. It's got a taste that's hard to beat. Cherry Coca-Cola.
Cherry Coke now has more cherry taste than ever before. Try the cherriest cherry Coke ever.
It's cherry, cherry, cherry Coca-Cola. It's got a taste that's all you need.
Try Cherry Coke and Diet Cherry Coke. You can't beat the feeling.
All right, welcome back to the Ottoman. I hope that you all enjoyed that quick little visual history of Cherry Coke. Definitely one of my favorite soda brands of all time, especially looking back on it. But I figured before we break open the box of the new re-release cans, let's take a look at a couple of the originals just briefly here. Starting with, from 1986, the original Cherry Coke can. Now, I've showed this on the channel before, probably more than once, but figured I had to at least give you all a quick look at it here today to go along with the theme of today's video. Just a great design. Brings back a lot of memories. You know, I feel like this was a can that you saw in the background on lots of different movies and TV shows. And depending on whether they had paid for advertising rights or licensing rights or whatever, sometimes it would have like a strip of tape over it, you know, or they try to manipulate it in some way, you know, the props department, to make it look like, you know, something else. But yeah, it just makes me think of that era so much. So much so that a few years ago I came across a spiral notebook that had that Cherry Coke logo on it. And being that I'm the Cassette Phase, what did I do with it? Well, I framed it. And it wasn't just the fact that it had that great Cherry Coke graphic on it, but it also had a Godfather's Pizza logo on it, which was my favorite pizza place growing up in Oklahoma. And you can still find Godfather's, you know, in certain parts of the country today, and they still have really good pizza. It still tastes the same as I remember on all those Friday nights as a kid. But yeah, this hangs in the garage. Love it. And then the last one for today, let's get a closer look at that iconic early to mid 90s Cherry Coke can. The lighting is not so great in here today, so it's not really picking up the how bright and vivid that purple and that red actually is. But this is another great design. Wasn't around for the longest time, but certainly memorable. And this can was contributed to the collection by a good friend of the channel, Eli. So thanks again, Eli, for this awesome can. This video would not have been nearly as impactful if I didn't have a couple of vintage examples to show. So again, thanks a lot. All right, so let's put the old ones away and open up the new version of the old one and see what we're working with there. Be right back. Okay, here we are. Let's take a look. Now the box is not in the best shape. It's been out in the garage fridge so that I could make sure these were cold, because if I am going to do a taste test of a diet soda, I definitely need it to be cold. But yeah, here we go with the box. Look at that cool cherry gradient design. Just love that. The very simple typeface there, you know, the font that they use is just classic. Nothing too fancy on the rest. I mean, we do have this section here, very retro. And then just repeats around the rest. So, all right, let's go ahead and open it up and take a closer look at the can. And I did my best to preserve some of the box. Probably sounds weird, but I'll take stuff like this sometimes and cut it out and make bookmarks out of it. I don't know. It's very strange, but I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to see this stuff again, you know? I just don't. So here we go. Nice and cold, and all right. All right, let me set that down and put the box to the side, and we'll take a look. Yeah, guys, I feel like they just knocked it out of the park with this one. And I am absolutely their target demographic. You know, if they're going to market to anybody, it's going to be someone like me when they do these retro, vintage, re-release packaging on any food product. I'm usually all in, but especially when it's soda. Of course, there are some differences, some modern day additions. So it's not an exact replica or anything. It's not even the same exact shape. you know, different color, different size on the tab and all of that. But beyond all that, just looking at the graphic and the overall image, tell me that does not just take you back. It takes me back. I'm feeling the nostalgic vibes right now for sure. So I will definitely be saving some of these for display. Just kind of a repeat of some of the graphic elements that we saw on the box, which is to be expected. But just, you know, bright, vibrant, cherry-colored red here on this otherwise fairly simple white can. And there wouldn't have been a giant Recycle Me sign on the original. It might have had a quick little note about it somewhere, probably, which is fine. And of course, there's probably more nutritional information now than there would have been on the original. Let's see. And of course, this is the original Cherry Coke. There's no diet on this one. Yeah, you can see there's a lot less going on with this part of the can than what we used to get back in the day. Take a look at this one. See, there is a big old "Please Recycle" on this 92 to 95 version of the can. Yeah, I think it fits right in. What do you guys think? All right, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this, but let's do a taste test. You know, there is something very 80s and 90s about the taste of NutraSweet and artificial sweeteners. So let's see what we've got going on here with the new version. And I got lucky. I didn't even tap that. I'm glad that didn't explode and ruin my ottoman and my doily here. So, all right, let's see. I'll let you know. Yep, it tastes just like you would expect. Cherry Coke with an aftertaste of NutraSweet or aspartame or whatever they're calling it these days. But not horrible. You know, I don't drink soda very often these days, so when I do allow myself one, I usually just do the regular version. You know, keep it in moderation. But you know, I could probably finish this one today and be all right. I don't know that I'll drink the others. I'll have to figure out what I want to do with those. Maybe give some out to the neighborhood kids, or I don't know, see if my kids want to try it. I don't know, we'll see. But like I said, I'm definitely going to be keeping some for display purposes. But there we go. Not bad. And hey, you cannot beat that can. And there we are. So I hope that you all enjoyed our fun little soda retrospective today. And if you did, consider subscribing if you're new around here. Also, don't forget to like the video, but only if you actually liked the video. But for now, and as always, relax, enjoy life, and be kind. We'll see you in the next one.